49ers versus Bears preview from Argentina. I am doing this, and this is live on TikTok, live on YouTube, live on X, but it will be available on YouTube so you can know all of the important stats if you miss it here in this video for this game this weekend, projecting it, literally predicting it, in a must-win game for the 49ers. Again, 2 wins away from a 1 seed and possibly a home Super Bowl. And now we got news today that Fred Warner might come back for the playoffs. Now, this could be all smoke and mirrors, and it's more logistically possible if he comes back, if they make a run, right, to the NFC title game or Super Bowl. I doubt he would play in a wild card game, God forbid, if they don't get the 1 seed or a divisional round game. I just don't see that happening, even though I just don't think they would push it, right? But if they win 2 games, if they win 1 game, if they get the 1 seed and it's the NFC title game, and it seemed like the Rams might be, playing at Levi Stadium or the Seahawks, it's a rivalry game, Fred's going to want to play. So I do think that there is some validity to that, especially with the reports coming, from John Lynch himself. And again, this could be all to screw people up in terms of preparation for the 49ers. Maybe it's hype. I do think it's possible. But right here, I wanted to look at the passing defense in the NFL this season. Obviously, Cleveland's number 1. But if we go down the list, Chicago is 18th. So that's obviously something the Niners can exploit. And we'll start there. Brock Purdy's been playing the best football of his career the last few weeks. He has a 76 QBR. That would be 3 points more than the year he almost won MVP in 2023 when they went to the Super Bowl, which was 73.1, I believe. So this is the highest QBR in the league, highest QBR of his career. His passer rating's lower than it was in 2013, but I mean, he's doing this with no receivers, like no true wide receiver ones. Like Jennings is good, and they will utilize Jennings perhaps more so than they even have been if Kittle doesn't play. McCaffrey's obviously used as a pass catcher, and I do want to see McCaffrey get like a ton of receiving yards these last few games because I want to see the 1,000. Obviously, the wins are more important, but for him having this whole illustrious career, having those, I think, is super important, those 2 seasons when you mention him in the all-time great running backs, because I think he's up there. Might be a little biased, but like I think he's probably the most underappreciated player in NFL history. Like I don't think people realize how good he is, what he can do, how he reads defenses, him being able to maximize his ability. And he's not really a downhill runner, but I mean, he's had bazillion yards running downhill, running through the tackles, right? I wish Kyle would use him on some slip screens more instead of right through the tackles. But I digress. Let's go back to it. So again, 18th, we look right here, Chicago, 18th ranked pass defense, something that they can exploit. They give up 217 passing yards per game. Purdy's averaging well over 250 the last few games. I think that's something they can exploit. And I think, Kittle's obviously the key to the offense. If Kittle doesn't play, I'm expecting a much lower scoring game. Kittle opens everything up. So I do expect them to be able to pass the ball to football at a high level. We look at San Francisco. We know how bad they are against the pass, 229.3 per game. Let's look at the last 3. Where do they rank? Not as bad. They rank 4th. That's because they played some bad teams. Let's look at just last week, right? Last week, they gave up 254 passing yards, most of which were in the first quarter. So, again, that's something they need to start out hot. It was weird because early on in the year, remember, their defense was excellent in the first quarter, bad at making adjustments in the second half, right? Like, that was something they had to really, really work on. And now it kind of is flip-flopped, where in the second half, they're all of a sudden, oh my gosh, we can play defense after they give up 500 yards total, right? Like in the first half, and they look horrible. No one's questioning that is their problem. Their defense, they can't get a pass rush. 16 total sacks, or 17, was it 17 total sacks on the year? Because West had one. Collins get a sack, might be 18 total sacks on the year. Was that fumble a sack? I think it was. So 18 total. It's still last in the league. They could get 5 more sacks. It would still be last in the league. Myles Garrett has them beat by about 4 or 5 sacks still at this point. I wanted to go to rushing defense next because I wanted to start with the defense. Rushing yards per game, San Francisco's ranked in the top 10. That's been their bread and butter all year long. Now, I know Tony Pollard a few weeks ago. I feel like that was more of an anomaly because they've been really good at stopping the run for a long time this entire year. And that's kind of what they focused on. Not kind of, it is what they focused on in the NFL draft, right? They focused CJ West, great run defender. We'll see about his pass rush upside. Alfred Collins, great run defender. We'll see if we can develop his pass rush upside. Mykel Williams, elite run defender. Let's see if we can develop his pass rush skills because it's he's very early on in his pass rush abilities. That was the entire draft. Was those first picks were on defensive linemen that could stop the run because remember last year they were horrible against the run. Let's go to 2024. That was a key emphasis for them. San Francisco was 18th. I mean, that is uncharacteristic of a San Francisco team. Top 5 in 2023, 2022. Obviously, D'Amico's the DC there. They'll be top 2 every time D'Amico's the DC. Go to 21, they're still 6. 2020 with Robert Saleh, they're 8th. Yeah, so similar this year. 106.4 points per rushing yards per game, 102.9. So they're even better this year against the run. The issue is Chicago, right? This is the key to the game. Can the Niners control the clock, and can they run the football at a high level? Protecting the ball is number one, though. We'll get that out of the way. You see these two metrics for Chicago and wonder how the heck they're even winning games with 18th ranked pass defense, the 27th ranked run defense, and their point differential being very, very slim, right? They win games barely. They never they don't really blow out teams. That one game against the Browns helped where they won 31-3. Obviously, Caleb's going to be a huge issue, and I'll get to him in a sec. But right off the bat, you look at these metrics. Brock Purdy's been passing the football at a very elite level. I think you got to continue that. But you have to remember, Kevin Byard, all these defenders, they have tons of interceptions this year. Tons. I think they're first in turnovers percentage, right? And we'll get to that in a second. They have the most turnovers of any defense in football. So protecting the football is going to be huge for Brock Purdy. Obviously threw a pick last week. Wasn't really his fault. It was a high pass. He had already had the best game of his career. Kendrick Bourne still should have caught. I have a thing. Look, if you hit a receiver and it touches their hands, they got to catch that shit. I don't give a shit. I don't care. That's kind of my take on it. I don't care. That's your fucking job. Yeah, high pass, whatever. So be it. He's also thrown a bunch of dimes, right? That's every quarterback. You know what I mean? So again, he'll get knocked for that, but he's been playing very well. And the Colts, remember, the Colts defense was decent for weeks. They only let Seattle put up 18. Seattle ended up putting up 38 the following week to the Rams. So again, I think they can exploit both the run game and the pass game. They're averaging over 35 points per game in general, the Niners, over the past 3 or 4 games. Brock Purdy's undefeated since he's come back since his foot injury. And we know his record and what he can do when he has his guys around him and he's healthy. Because I think the Jaguars game early on this season, he wasn't that healthy, right? That's why he had the fumble. He threw for 340 in that game. And looking back, it's impressive. At the time, people were like, how could you lose to the Jaguars? Well, the Jaguars might get the number 1 seed. It's unlikely, but they're a good team, the Jaguars. I think they're better than people think. First against the run in the entire NFL, but that's a whole separate conversation. We look at the 27th overall run defense in Chicago, and they're giving up 131 rushing yards per game. That screams the way Trent Williams is playing, the way that line is playing. So recently, Christian McCaffrey game. That's all I'm going to say with that. I mean, he's got to have 100+ rushing yards. He's got to have 50+ receiving yards. I think that's how you win and especially if Kittle is out, I want to see a 200+ scrimmage yard game from him. They're going to need it because, you're playing a risky game starting Kittle with an injury when you need him for the playoffs, but you also really want the 1 seed because if they have to go on the road, I don't know if I can trust this team on the road in the playoffs. I'd prefer them to be at home for 2 games rather than 3 before the Super Bowl, right? Especially in a down year for the NFC, where somehow the San Francisco team with their atrocious defense can compete on a weekly basis. I mean, in previous years, this team would get bulldozed by the 2023 San Francisco 49ers team. That team was one of the best teams to not win a Super Bowl. I'm still mad about that. Obviously, everyone who's watching this video that's a Niners fan is mad about that Super Bowl. That was a disaster class, scoring only what was it, 20 points against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl? I mean, whatever. That's a whole separate conversation. So we look at that. Let's go to scoring defense because I'm sure Chicago's won. Well, that's opponent touchdowns per game. What about turnovers? Turnover margin overall. Let's look at per game turnover margin. They're number 1 in turnover margin, as you can see. Almost every metric for turnovers, they'll be 1 in. San Francisco's 20th. They have actually a negative 0.3 turnover differential, which is not good. Total defense. Let's look at this. Turnovers. All of these metrics, giveaways per game, they'll be, they get the most giveaways per game. Opponent giveaway thrown percentage. Yeah, they're number one in that. Opponent interception thrown percentage by a large margin too. Almost a full percent over the Chargers, as you can see. So again, they force turnovers. Purdy's going to have to protect the football at a very high level. We can look at all the stats in the world. This game comes down to very simple. It's on Brock Purdy's shoulders. And I hate to be cookie cutter with that take, but if he protects the football, if he continues to look like the quarterback he has been the last few games, the 49ers may not lose another game. If they're putting up 35 a game, even with their atrocious defense, if they continue to put up, like if I see them put up 35 against Chicago, I'm impressed. If I see them put up 35 against Seattle and they win, I think they could win a Super Bowl. But I need to see it the next few weeks. I don't fully trust this team yet to win a Super Bowl. I don't know what it is. It's obviously their defense. They would easily have the worst defense of any Super Bowl winning team since the Chiefs in, what was it, the first year they beat the Niners with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they were ranked 20th against the pass. They were still top 10 against the run. Similar to the San Francisco team, they're kind of a bend not break defense. This was when Spags was still getting that defense ready, putting in his master class year by year, which he inevitably did the next few years. But again, it'd be super rare unless this team gets the 1 seed. There is no way they win the Super Bowl. I'll tell you guys that right now. If they get the 1 seed, they have a chance, because then you have a home game that you hope win in the divisional round. And then you get, by that point, it's a coin flip, right? Like anybody can win any given game. Who would I prefer them to see in the wild card round if it goes to that? I would say the Panthers, of course. But the problem is, if they lose, the Rams are probably winning their last 2 games, right? So if the Niners lose either of these games, the Rams will have the 5 seed, the Niners will have the 6 seed, which means they'll have to go to Philadelphia, which I'm not opposed to. I think Philadelphia is a very flawed team that they could beat, but I'd prefer to play the Panthers. That's just me. I prefer to not play in the wild card round at all. Wouldn't it be the best story of all time in sports? Not all time, but in sports this year, a San Francisco 49ers team without Fred Warner, without Nick Bosa, without Mykel Williams, their first round pick, Ayuk not playing the entire year, throwing a tantrum, Kittle missing games, and all of a sudden, and Brock Purdy missing a bunch of games, Mac Jones stepping in, doing great things, all to get the 1 seed. Man, that's crazy. If you think about it, that's insane. That's what pisses me off about John Lynch not going all in at the deadline. What I mean by that is they have whiffed on a lot of first, second, and third round picks. They're really good in the later rounds. They've whiffed on a lot of first, second, and third round picks. They couldn't have given up a second for McDonald or Jermaine Johnson. They couldn't have given up a third for Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips. You're going to get a second round pick for Mac Jones in the offseason anyways. Do you need a second round pick? I don't get it. I still won't get that ever. Trusting the guys they have. You were putting so much pressure on Robert Saleh every single week. Saleh is going to have to get the most out of these guys who, by the way, a lot of them would be practice team players on other rosters. I love how he's developed Bethune. Bethune is awesome. I still like D Winters. I know his coverage grade hasn't been that great this year, especially in recent games. He's given up a lot of yards, but he started off the year hot. He's been good recently. He was great against the Colts. So I like that tandem. Luke Gifford, I hope never sets foot on defense ever again. Special teams, great player. Defense, it's just hilarious how every team watches how the tight ends run that play when Luke Gifford's on the field. And anytime they see Luke Gifford playing linebacker there, they run the exact play. Do they not understand that if Luke Gifford's out there, automatically that play is run and it's a 50-yard touchdown? Gunnar Helm ran it with Cam Ward, rookie court, 2 rookies right there. Shedeur Sanders ran it to Harold Fannin, and they got that obviously from the Rams with Sean McVay running that for, what was that, Jake Ferguson? Or not Jake Ferguson, Terrence Ferguson. It was Terrence Ferguson, I believe. Might have been Parkinson, but I think it was Terrence Ferguson. So again, I just don't want to see Luke Gifford on the field. I want to see more of Nick Martin. But right now, I think they have guys that can develop. And at worst, at worst, as we're projecting this game, if they lose this Bears game, people may think it's the end of the world. And if you think they're winning a Super Bowl, yeah, they're not winning a Super Bowl unless they get the 1 seed. So if they lose this game, their season's over. It's just a matter of when, right? Whether it's the wild card round, divisional round, or even the NFC championship, it doesn't matter. They're not making it unless they get the NFC title game at SoFi, which is increasingly unlikely considering Seattle's win over the Rams last week, right? So my point here is I don't think that there's any downside to the Niners' young players playing in big games. These next few games are virtually playoff games, right? The games after that, whether that be, a wild card game, a divisional, just a wild card game, and a divisional, or an NFC championship in there as well, that's only going to help Upton Stout. That's only going to help Alfred Collins, CJ West. You would love Michael Williams to be healthy enough to play. Obviously, he's not. He can until midway through next year, probably. Get another young guy some reps. You want to see Ricky Pearsall healthy for that. Get another young guy some reps. You want to see Bethune continue to improve. Then you kind of are like, okay, when D Winters is up for a contract extension, maybe we just roll with Bethune in a year or two, right? Like, you have options, and I think there's no downside to young players playing in playoff games, right? These next two games for the 49ers, they're playing a very good Chicago team, who's very well coached. Ben Johnson is going to have DeAndre Swift running better probably than you would think. We know the Niners have a top 10 run defense. I don't think it matters. The way he schemes up the run game and the play action is great. And finally, I'll say this about Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is an excellent quarterback. He's borderline elite. I think it's going to be until next season. Maybe this is the year we're starting to see it. The completion percentage is low. I don't give a shit about completion percentage, honestly. I care about wins. The guy wins when it matters. He always steps up. It's no secret that he's the best clutch quarterback in the league this year. It's no secret that he has one of the highest number of touchdown to interception ratios in the fourth quarter in the NFL this season. So you got to really put Chicago away early. Caleb's going to be able to use his legs, which will change, the coverage. It'll take time to develop. Obviously, when he's out of the pocket and he's able to do what he can do with his legs and extending the plays, that is dangerous. We'll see if Rome plays. We'll see. Luther Burden's probably going to play. Obviously, DJ Moore's going to play. So they'll have all their guys back pretty much if Rome plays. It's going to be a tough game. I'm not going to lie. I'm not as confident with this game as I previously was 5 or 6 weeks ago when Caleb was turning the ball over late and when, they couldn't really get anything going in the passing game. Now it's clicking on all cylinders. This is basically playing the Lions with a quarterback that can run. Goff was stationary, right? You knew it was coming. Is that a cost or a benefit? I've seen people the last few days talk about how Caleb's inability to stay in the pocket will ultimately be a downside for him against the 49ers. I disagree. I mean, you saw Phillip Rivers. Obviously, he was stationary, stayed in the pocket, diced him up the entire game. You'd want Caleb to do that, you would think. But also, we got to understand the Niners defense was compensating for a lot. They're not that good. Robert Saleh had to throw a lot of blitzes out there late in the game when the game was on the line against the Colts that he didn't want to throw, right? He want to get pressure with 4. Obviously, they can't. So they're going to have to blitz more. And that's dangerous because the big plays are going to open up against a young defense, a young secondary with Stout out there and Jair Brown and everybody. Yeah, I mean, I think it's worse playing a quarterback like Caleb Williams, someone who can use their legs and extend plays. Mahomes, Caleb Williams, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Those are all tougher like this stupid thing about, stationary quarterbacks like Burrow, Rivers, like guys that can't run, Goff, they're tougher to play. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They're not tougher to play. It's the guys that can do all the extracurriculars, get out of the pocket, get the big play. Because at least you have your coverage and you do your best. He's going to get the ball out in 2 or 3 seconds if it's against a stationary quarterback, right? It's much more difficult against a guy that takes time to go through his progressions. And then all of a sudden, DJ Moore is open for a 60-yard touchdown after Stout gets diced and beat if you don't get the blitz. So I'm a little nervous about this game as a 49ers fan. Obviously, it's a must-win game. And the nerves don't stop, guys. We win this game against Chicago. Then guess what? Guess who's the following week? Seattle, who's been arguably the best team in the NFL recently. And I know people are going to be like, Brock Purdy has never lost to Seattle. I mean, so it's first time for everything. Seattle's defense is elite. Mike Mack, remember, is the guy who schemed up against Brock Purdy, made him throw 4 interceptions on the Raven when he was the Ravens DC on Christmas a few years ago. So it's only tough going from here. It's what you can want for this team. It'll build adversity regardless of what happens these next few games. Ideally, they get the 1 seed, and we're living in a dream. And you get somebody like the Panthers in the divisional round, or the Packers, or maybe the Rams or Seahawks. I mean, it all depends on that, right? But at least it would be at home. I think that's the best you can ask for this defense, for this team. If they want to make a deep playoff run, you got to be at home. You got Brock Purdy. He shouldn't have to put up 35 a game, but with this defense, he's going to have to, right? Like, you're going to have to put up 35 to win every game, especially in the playoffs against teams that can score, like Seattle, like the Rams, like the Bears, right? To a lesser extent, but they can, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I do think the Niners win. I'm going to say 31-27. I think it'll be a very close game. I think it'll be one of those games where the Niners maybe get down early. Like last week, they were down 7-0. I think it might be a little worse. Might be a little 14-3, 14-6. And then, halftime, Kyle's going crazy. And all of a sudden, Brock Purdy throws for 3 touchdowns in the second half once they stop being a little conservative with their play calling. I think that's going to happen. I would not be shocked if the Bears win. I think it's a coin flip game. I think people are giving too much credit picking the 40. Like, everyone's picking the 49ers. Like, I get it, like, offensively, but who's been able to score 35 points on the Bears this year? You know what I mean? Like, they're a tough team to score points against. Every game they play, it's like fucking 13-13 in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? So again, the Niners offense is clicking on all cylinders, going to continue to do so. But if you like this, make sure you follow me, subscribe as well to my YouTube for more 49ers content like this. Again, I'm in Argentina, so I apologize for, I wouldn't say slacking off, but just not making as much content specifically on YouTube, but also TikTok as I have been previously. And if you're watching on TikTok and you want to see more of this, or X, make sure you're subbing to my YouTube, and this will be available right after. Yeah.